Be careful.
He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Don't smell this.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah, right.
The podcast, so
that's all right.
Feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
Welcome to the Acement, everybody. It's Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And welcome once again. Thank you so much for joining us. We took a little hiatus last week from the live show, but we still put up a great episode last week with Sean Morey for the downloads, for everybody that's downloading. Hopefully, if you watch live, you watched him when we had him on live.
Yes.
If you didn't get a chance to see him live, hopefully you downloaded that episode because that was a full circle episode for us.
That was awesome. It was so much fun.
I had never met him before, only heard of him. So to get to know Sean and he was an awesome guest.
And I had forgotten too that at the end of the episode we were like, he had said he was just in Rhode Island a couple of months ago, and he was like, yeah, next time I'm in Rhode Island, I'll come out and visit you guys. That'd be awesome.
We have a list of people that we've had on that are like, yeah, next time I'm around, I want to have a beer with you guys, or I'm going to come hang out with you guys. So I can't wait to meet some of these people face to face that we've had on the show that have been awesome guests. So I hope you guys are enjoying these guests as much as we had. Tomorrow, if you're watching live, the Wicked Funny Podcast Crew episode comes out, and I've listened to that one about 3 or 4 times.
Is it as chaotic as it seemed?
Yeah. It probably even more so.
Which we totally expected, though.
Oh yeah,
we knew it was
no, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be.
But a lot of fun.
It's hilarious.
Yes,
it is absolutely. Brian's laugh, Brian Bowden's laugh, is one of the funniest things that I've ever heard. So those guys are awesome. Check out their podcast. I'll give them another plug. Yes. Wicked Funny Podcast. It's a lot of fun to listen to those guys. So, and they were great guests. So definitely check those guys out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to thank
our unofficial sponsor, who's been ghosting us lately, according to what Scott said.
Yeah, the talks are a little cold right now. But I'm not. I am persistent.
Yes.
I'm a stubborn Irishman. I love their product, so I'm going to keep reaching out.
Well, here's the deal. We never started drinking their bourbon looking for sponsorship.
We drank it because it tasted good.
We drank it because we like it, and so we continue to drink it because we like it, but we would love for the people at Jefferson's to fucking call us back. Please. If we can get drinking Ocean, this is the expensive shit. We don't just buy the cheap shit. We're buying the expensive shit.
And so here's a little promotional.
Read that. That's a good read.
Kissed by ocean air, darkened by pounding waves, caramelized by equatorial heat. Make your next bottle a voyage of Jefferson's Ocean.
That's great.
Introducing a bourbon that's been hyper-aged at sea. Jefferson's Ocean is the perfect gift for those who crave adventure. Order a bottle and embark on your voyage.
Wow. That was a great read. You should send that to him. Say, see the shit we're doing? We're reading your stuff.
Yeah, you pricks. Now give us some free stuff.
I know. We're not even looking for money. And for those watching live, I don't know if you noticed this, but I have a little dirt under my nose. I decided to try and prove that I have actually hit puberty at age 53. So I always do this on vacation.
Yeah.
I try and grow a little facial hair. And because I have only 1 week of work in between vacations, I said, let's see how much I can grow. But it's funny. This is the only place I grow like hair, but it's all gray. This is like I have no grays on my head, very little on my sideburns.
I don't have a ton of gray hair on my head, but my facial hair is almost completely gray.
It's crazy how that happens,
it's
right?
weird. But
So
enough with that fascinating
Hey,
talk.
yeah, exactly. And now grooming secrets with Behind the Funny.
But we had asked you guys not too long ago to please give us a 5-star written review, and a bunch of you did.
Yes, a lot more than this, but some people have only come in during July, and this was a June promotion.
This was a June promotion, so we may do another one of these in the future.
Yeah, maybe
and
September or October.
And I'll tell you what, if you guys like the idea of a promotional giveaway for a 5-star review, send us an email.
Yes.
At behindthefunnypod@gmail.com. Send an email and say, hey, I had fun. I love the idea. We have a bunch of swag. Give us some ideas, and we would love to do it again. Also, if you're in an area of the country where you have a local comedy club with some local comedians that you really like, that you're a fan of, that you think would be a good guest, let us know. We love talking to new people.
Absolutely.
We love discovering new comedians. Give us a heads up on somebody. We'll reach out. We'll get them on the podcast. We'd love to talk to them and discover some new talent that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
We love talking to them. But as we promised, for all the people during June that gave us a 5-star written review, we are going to pull a name. Well, not an actual name, but their login name.
Their login name. Yeah, we don't know their real names.
Email us behindthefunnypod@gmail.com and get in contact with me, and I will get you a hoodie of your choice. So.
And Scott is going to go in the bowl and pick out a name, and you have won a Behind the Funny hoodie.
Victoria, thumbs up.
Victoria, thumbs up. Thank you for giving us a thumbs up.
She gave us a very, very nice review last month. Actually said, love these guys, love this podcast.
Yep.
So we appreciate that. So Victoria, please email me again, behindthefunnypod@gmail.com, and I will give you the selections on the different hoodies. You pick whatever you want, and we'll get that out to you. Okay. And we really, yes, the best hoodies available online.
Absolutely. That say Behind the Funny on it.
Yes. The best ones, best behind the fun. You can get a pullover, you can get a zip up,
whatever you want.
Either design. We have all kinds of choices for you. But we really appreciate everybody that did. We appreciate everyone that tunes in.
Yes.
And we appreciate everybody that tells a friend.
And that's the biggest thing. We have seen, so last month in June, we had our largest month to date.
Yep.
And when Scott sent me the numbers over today,
I didn't
even realize it, but I noticed and I was like, dude, do you realize we're on track to even blow out last month if we continue this month along the same way?
It was so funny. I did a screen cap and sent it to Ace with last month's numbers. And I'm like, hey, last month was pretty good. Not even looking at July month to date where we were at. And he's like, dude, did you see where we are month to date?
Yeah, month to date, we're even higher than last month.
You guys have been awesome, man.
So please, if you enjoy the podcast, just tell a friend. Just please tell a friend about it. Someone that may like a comedy podcast. We're going to continue to get great comics on, telling their stories about what made them get on stage that first time, what's behind the funny. It always seems to be that we get a big jump when we get a lot of really funny bad gig stories. People love hearing other people's pain. And so believe me, us comics have a lot of fucking pain that we go through.
And we love hearing other people's pain.
Exactly. We love hearing other people's pain. So thank you so much. We have to get to our guest because this guy is a very, very funny guy. We didn't know him until, so it was weird.
Knew of him.
We knew of him.
But didn't know him personally.
And the more I looked at his old headshot, I'm like, I remember his headshot at the Comedy Connection. He was up at the Comedy Connection.
Oh, in Providence?
In Providence. I know he played there, and I didn't realize it. And then, we met him through our friend Mark Rigodonna, who you saw on the podcast a couple of months ago.
I don't think I've ever worked with Mark.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whole other side joke, folks.
Go back and listen to that.
Go back and listen to that one. Scott had an epiphany that he actually worked with Mark years ago, before I even did. But Mark came on, and then Mark invited us to be on this Guinness Book of World Records fundraiser that was raising money for different charities for kids. And while we were on that fundraiser, we met this guy, and he's like he is, we tell everyone we're on twitch.com, Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling is the channel. And this guy is the co-creator of the Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. And let me tell you, when we were on that fundraiser, that marathon,
You and I were talking about this. Yeah.
this guy popped on. I mean, he was on almost the whole time.
Exactly.
This guy was never without a new story. So I love the stories that he told. And I'm like, we got to get this guy
He
on.
fit in with whoever was on.
Whoever was on, he was like, oh,
Every
remember when we worked
conversation,
here?
every story. I mean, he just was great in every conversation. So we're like, we got to get him on the podcast.
So we're very excited, as we are every week, because
Yes.
we get great guests. I'm not gonna, you know,
we're very
apologize
lucky.
for that.
Very lucky.
But we're very lucky. So this guy has been a comic for over 20 years. He's actually been the warm-up comic for the Dr. Oz show, and so I put that in the picture that we put up on the post. But we want to welcome our new friend, new brother, Mr. Richie Byrne, to the show. So hold on one second. There he is, Richie.
Boys,
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Can I just
Yeah.
say, first of all, you were very nice to say 20 years because it's been 30.
Oh my God, it said 20 in your bio. You need to.
Yeah, well,
update
that bio's older than.
I'm like, wait a minute, this guy has to be doing it longer than 20 years, but that's what the bio said. So I went by that.
Well, you went by a headshot in a comedy club that was older than 20 years.
Wait, here's the other thing. I clicked on his website and it took me to a fucking Chinese page. So I think you need to update your website too. I think the Chinese bought your name.
Works, Ace.
Yeah, you what?
I don't think my website even works.
No, it doesn't. I think the Chinese people bought your domain name.
Oh,
because-
yes. We buy a Richie Byrne.
Yeah. Richie Byrne, very funny guy.
I actually, my website started COVID. Not many people. By the way, you do realize there are people out there who are offended by what I just said.
Of course. I just said to myself, I said, you know what? I'm sure there are going to be people that are going to be triggered and offended.
There's
but
a
you know
lot
what's-
of warnings on our podcast. You're safe.
That's the
You're
great
safe.
thing, Richie,
Okay,
is
good.
on our podcast it says explicit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
believe me, there has been worse said.
You know, it's funny because that's the problem that people don't understand is if you you can say to somebody, wow, you're a really great singer. I can't sing. Wow, you're a really great actor. I can't act. Wow, you're a really great dancer. I can't dance. But nobody says I don't have a sense of humor.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly.
And they're wrong. They're
Right.
absolutely wrong. There are a lot of people in the world, not a lot, but enough, who don't have a sense of humor.
Well,
I
you
agree.
know what it is?
A joke.
I was thinking about this the other day, and unfortunately, that is the group that all of a sudden has this very loud voice
Yes.
in comedy. In other words, all
Isn't that
those
weird?
people, they used to be like,
It
5
used
or
to be
10.
Ace. We used to call those people club owners.
Yeah. And that's why we don't work clubs anymore. That's why we're all doing fundraisers.
So I'm producing my own shows.
But you're right. There used to be like 5 or 10 people in every crowd that didn't have a sense of humor, but they were in the minority. But now because the minority has such a loud voice.
You're not even allowed to say
It's-
minority.
Right. Oh, exactly. That's a bad word. Right. Exactly.
Well, I think it's because the majority
They're afraid.
exactly. People
majority
are
are
afraid to
afraid.
speak up and say that I find that funny.
Right.
Because exactly, they're afraid. They're so worried of being outed in some way.
Right.
It's that cancel culture because that not only did they get a loud voice, they were able to get people fired from jobs and banned from places.
Exactly.
They actually got things done, and it has people nervous now
Right.
to laugh at things they used to or joke about things that they used
But
to.
it seems like now, if you're not very well known or if you're super well known, you're fine. Because if you're not very well known, who gives a shit if you make a joke that doesn't sit right with a crowd? Great, different crowd tomorrow. If you're very well known, like a Joe Rogan or someone like that,
Or Bill Cosby.
or yeah, well, I was going to say Bill Burr, but if you're very well known, you have your following that's going to be like, hey, if you don't like what he says, fuck you. I'm going to move on. I like what he says.
Right.
But it's the people in the middle
Yeah.
that are being targeted because they
don't have as much power.
Exactly. They don't have much power. It's weird how being an unknown comic, gives you power, you know, because I don't give a shit. If someone doesn't like my set, fine. Guess what? There's a million people that do that I've played to, you know?
But it's that one person that doesn't like your set that's going to go on social media and just blow you up. And
right.
I don't know. I don't know. It's such a weird time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Just before COVID, Richie, it's funny you say that. I did a show for a company we both work for, Funny for Funds fundraiser. And I was closing the show. And right at the beginning of my set, I did a thing about how I have 3 daughters. And I said, what a pain in the ass teenage daughters are. And this woman said, I love my teenage daughter. And I shot something back at her. I go, then you're a bigger bitch than she is. She wrote a 2-page email to the fundraising company about what a horrible person I was, and that's not comedy. And when I said it, I just said to her, I even said on stage, obviously I'm joking because, you know, and
right.
She totally just sat there with her arms crossed the rest of the night, and she was done. Right. And she wrote a letter and said I should never work for them again and everything like that. And I was like, oh my God.
But the problem is because we're comics and we have such fragile egos, even though that was one person,
it bothered me.
It bothered me
like crazy.
I bet.
You know?
I know it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I mean, it's hard to explain to somebody, like, go watch Blazing Saddles. They're making a point. They're making a fucking point. And they can't make the point unless they offend.
Right. And they can't make the point if you're going to take it out of context and not understand they're making the point. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. Everyone takes things out of context.
My favorite part of Blazing Saddles is Dom DeLuise, who goes in with these dancers and does
at the end
completely offensive to homosexuals in every way, shape, and nobody has a problem with that. Because
right, exactly.
N-word. That's what everybody. No, they said the N-word.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's the problem. People are too busy picking things out to take it out of the context.
Stop dissecting.
Exactly.
Here's the best way to put it. If I'm a wide receiver, let's say, which is never going to happen.
Don't give up hope, man.
Don't give up on your dream, buddy.
I'm a wide receiver in the NFL, and I go deep, and I completely beat the guy that's playing me. I mean, I beat him by 20 yards, and the quarterback throws the ball, and I drop the ball. It doesn't mean I didn't beat him by 20 yards.
Right.
But I might fuck up at times, but I took a chance and I went deep. Yeah, I went deep. Yeah. Let me go deep. Most of the time, I'm going to catch the ball and score a touchdown.
Right.
Time where I dropped the ball.
And I've said it before, Richie. I remember an interview with Jim Carrey where he says, being a comic is literally throwing 10 things out there for 2 things to stick. But if you don't throw those 10 things out there because you're afraid of offending someone or pissing someone off, you might miss those 2 things that end up being gold, because now you're censoring yourself. You cannot get up on stage and censor yourself because it is not going to do you any good. You don't know what's going to come out. It's trial and error. It's like taking shots on goal. You need to take 10 shots to get 2.
Well, that's why I think when you're on stage, if you're too guarded and too worried about offending people, you're going to lose as a comedian. You have to stay true to yourself. You have to do what you think is funny, what your material is. And if you offend a few people, you offend a few people. It is what it is.
Right.
But if you try to placate to those people in the audience, you're going to lose in the end.
It's funny because I so want to talk to you guys about what we did in January. And
whatever you want.
I love you guys and what you did. But somehow we got on this. I don't want to get off of it right now.
It's all right. No, it's great.
I'm not offensive. Like I've never been. Like that's not what my job. That's not what I do. I have no problem with comics who are. I think that's impressive. That's what people don't understand too. You can listen to Beatles and love the Beatles, and you can listen to Metallica and love Metallica. It doesn't make them the same. They're different.
Exactly.
And it's still music.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Like, I can watch somebody who's completely off the rails and go, God bless him. And they can watch me and go, God bless him, because he doesn't have to do that. But I had a booker call me about before the pandemic, about a year and a half ago. And he said, hey, man, I never tell a comic what to say. But do you know that you say this? And do you know you say this? And he was right. And his point was, be careful. And it was just 3 jokes. Yep. But he was right on all 3 at that time. His point was, I know you're not saying it offensive. You're not being offensive.
But it could be taken out of context. And I'm just trying to warn you about it.
Yes. And here's the other. We live in a world now where you can tape anybody at any time.
Yeah.
And I can cut everything out. I can cut the setup out. I can cut the tag out. But that one line makes you sound offensive.
Exactly.
And that could go viral and destroy you.
Well, and that's the problem with anyone.
100%.
That's the problem with anyone taping at shows. You know, years ago, I had a really, she's an awesome person. She's a huge fan. She came to a show and she recorded part of my set on her phone and then put it out on the internet and thought she was doing me a favor because that night I was having a great set.
Right.
But when you listen to it on a telephone camera, on an iPhone camera, it sounded horrible. You couldn't hear any of the crowd's laughter. It sounded like I was bombing. Right. And I emailed her. I said, listen, I really appreciate that you were putting me out there and you were doing that for me. But if you listen to it, it sounds like I was doing horrible. And I know it wasn't like that. And you know it wasn't like that because you were there. But that's the problem. So much can be taken out of context once it's put on the internet. And once it goes viral, you're fucked. You know?
Even live. I mean, take a joke any way you want to take it, man. Just like you can listen to a song and go, oh, that's about suicide. Right. And that's where we're at now. Where the heavy metal guys were in the 80s. That's where we're at.
You're right. You know? Yeah, because it's like, hey, I wrote this personal bit or they wrote this personal song and meant something to them. And someone else is going to come in and tell me this is about committing suicide and telling people to commit suicide. No, it has nothing to do with that. You know?
I saw a comedian tweeted the other day, if you go see a comedy show, stop recording sets.
Yeah.
You don't know if a guy is working on new material. It's not ready yet for public consumption. You don't know what he's doing. He's putting together his hour to record.
That bit
something
is
like that.
Totally different.
That night is meant for you and the people that are there live, not for everybody on the internet. So stop taping and stop putting stuff up. And I'm like, good for him.
Because that bit is going to look very different
in 2 months, in 3 months, 6 months.
Exactly.
And I have to make mistakes.
Yes, you have to. You have to be allowed to make mistakes like anyone else in a job.
And our job, unlike any other art form, the only way we can make mistakes is in front of an audience.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't make mistakes alone in front of a mirror.
You don't know
because you don't know if it's a mistake, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I've been making a lot of those lately because as we came out of COVID, I had all this brilliant material that I had come up with during COVID that wasn't as brilliant in front of a live audience once I started trying it.
Like tonight, I was sitting in a bar at 8:00 tonight, and I realized that I made a mistake when I told Ace I would come on here.
See, we all have
we all make mistakes.
We all second guess ourselves, my friend. We all second guess ourselves.
So, Richie, let me, because we do normally have somewhat of a format, but we jumped ahead. But let me ask you this. So you said that you started 30 years ago. Where did you start, first of all? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Staten Island, New York.
Okay, Staten Island. All right.
Yeah.
And did you have siblings?
I have 3 brothers. I'll tell you a funny story. I was working a cruise ship back in the late 90s.
Yep.
And cruise ships can be brutal for comedians.
We've heard.
Yeah. And I did the show, and the next morning they wanted the comic, the singer, and the magician to do a Q&A with people. And
Q&A.
So nobody gave a shit about me. They cared about the magician.
Yeah. How do you do those tricks? Yeah. What are they going to ask you? What's the punchline? How did you come up with that punchline?
Yeah. So at one point, the cruise director kind of tried to direct things back to me because no one.
Back to you, so you didn't feel left out.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I couldn't have been more fine with never speaking.
I'm just fine. Let me drink my coffee. Leave me the fuck alone.
He was like the heckler that was just helping you out.
Yeah, exactly.
So he said something to me about my family, like you just did. I said, well, I have 3 brothers. I said, and they're all funnier than I am. And some old guy in the audience goes, well, where the fuck are they? And the only thing that makes me happy is knowing that man's probably dead now because he had to be about 80 then. So.
In the 90s, yeah, right.
But
so
it was line.
Where did you fit in? Where do you fit in with your brothers?
I'm second. I'm a year younger than my older brother.
Okay. Yep.
Now, what does your older brother do for a living?
He owns a laundry and linen supply business, like a commercial.
Right. So he's a business owner.
My father owned for him.
Okay.
And, he pretty much spent his whole life trying to get me in trouble. Like he didn't
really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He didn't care even if he went down with me, as long as I went down, it was fine with him.
Yep.
So that was, yeah. Yeah.
The reason why we ask is because we've been doing this podcast now. We're in our 5th year. And I think we can count on one hand the amount of comics who end up being the firstborn. We're always the middle child or the baby. And it's because we were starved for attention. Mm-hmm. And the oldest is always like the more successful of everyone.
More responsible, more successful.
My younger brother, Kenny's more successful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
you can say he's a drug dealer. That's fine.
No. Well, that's funny.
Different levels of success.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Executive who handles drugs.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
but work for a pharmaceutical company.
But my older brother, I say this all the time. My older brother was probably the most talented person I've ever worked with.
Really?
He was amazing amazing singer. He could write music.
Really?
We were in theater together, and he was just so amazing as an actor. Mm-hmm. But one problem was he thought he was smarter and better than everybody else, and never, you know what I mean? And probably was, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't learn. And an attitude of, no, this should be handed to me like everything else. Do you know, you know what I'm saying? Whereas I came up a year behind him going, yeah, man, I've been taking it on the chin since I'm 14. I'm just going to keep taking it on the chin. And
I got to work at this.
He'll even say that. He'll say that. He'll say that he goes, Richie's a badass motherfucker because he never gave up.
You're a harder worker. It came easy to him. Right.
Yeah.
You know, one question a lot of people have asked us, and we've asked our guests for them, is what made you try comedy that first time? What was the thing? Well, you know, because we've had people that did it on a dare. We had people that were tricked into doing it by their friends. We had people that dreamt of doing it their whole lives. But what was that thing that made you say, I'm going to stand on stage and try this?
I realized the chicks you could get.
That's the most honest answer I've ever gotten.
I listen.
All those comedy groupies.
Think about it. Last year,
tons of them.
Hey,
crawling.
Last year, we had my best friend on to talk about how I got started in comedy, and what was it? What was the reason he gave?
Yeah.
I realized that there were girls liked funny guys. You know, I even wrote a joke about it. I wrote a joke about how Playboy bunnies. If you look at the Playboy bunnies, right? every one of them had that fact sheet.
Sense of humor.
And it sense of humor was always number one. And I'm always like,
They're so full of shit. They're
of course they are.
Yeah.
No.
Because even in your joke, they end up blowing the quarterback.
I say they blow the quarterback. They don't blow the
No,
comic.
I like a guy with a sense of humor. I'm going to suck off the guy who can play
football. Exactly.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to call the guy with a great sense of humor to tell him how upset I am.
Yeah, that the guy that I blew, who was the athlete, didn't call me back. Exactly.
Because the guy said humor's in the friend zone.
Yeah, because we get friend zoned.
You're such a great friend. You make me laugh.
What's my joke?
Yeah,
You literally just said my joke.
That's
word for word.
Because it's true.
Because it's true. Because it's
It's not
home.
the first time I've said somebody's joke word for word.
Yeah. That's awesome.
No,
So
well,
you-
it was weird because even when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an actor. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I wanted to be an actor. And when I got into high school, and it's funny, I have a funny story about this that Mark Riccadonna loves, but when I was really young, my father came home with an album, Meet the Beatles. And that turned my life around. I learned so much about music from listening to that album. And I got completely, to this day, I'm like a Beatles freak.
Yeah.
I learned about harmonies. And my brother, my older brother, he actually was in music.
Yeah.
And we both realized we could sing. And when I got into high school, I auditioned for the high school play and I could sing, which was a huge plus.
Right.
Because every high school does musicals. Very few high schools are doing, Waiting for Godot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And I could actually sing, and I learned that from the Beatles. I learned that from listening to the Beatles.
Right. Yep.
When I ended up going to college and majoring in theater, and the college I went to was Wagner College on Staten Island, which had an amazing musical theater
department.
It really was a musical theater college. It really was.
Yep.
And I was in all the plays there. But all that time, people would say to me, "You're really funny. You should do stand-up. You're really funny. You should do stand-up." I even had professors say, "Any way you can get into the business there's nothing wrong with that."
Right.
And then I took a comedy class, and the comic said the opposite to me. He goes, "You can sing?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You need to put that into your act." And back in the late 80s, early 90s, I had music that I did in my act. But and Rich Voss to this day will say to me, "Where's your guitar?" Meanwhile, I never played guitar a day in my life, but he.
But that's what Voss remembers, right?
Richie Byrne. Rich Byrne, where's your guitar?
Next coming to the stage with
Where's your
his
guitar, Rich Byrne?
One day he actually said to me, "Did you ever play guitar?" I go, "No, I never played guitar."
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I love Voss.
I love
But it was
Voss.
literally naive. I was so naive that I thought, if I do this for a year and I get kind of good at it, maybe I get an agent out of it.
Yep.
And then I can go audition for things. Like it never, and within a year, I realized, oh my God, you're never going to be great. You're never going to be perfect at this. This is golf, And a year, I realized pretty early on that a year meant nothing in comedy.
Yeah. 5 years. 5 years means nothing in comedy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and but I will say, and back, it was the early 90s, so I ended up within 3 or 4 years getting some cable shows like Comedy Central, Stand Up, and VH1 Stand Up Spotlight. So I didn't get to do all those shows.
Right.
And I was 4 or 5 years in, which now, God, yeah. When people say to me now, "What do I do to start?" I go, "I'm not the guy to talk to because it's changed so much."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So to your point, I know I got a drink. Sorry. I say to your point to our guests a lot. So we have a drinking game. Whenever I say to your point, we have to drink. So drink.
On me, but if I did,
All right. No, but But when I got on Comedy Central, I got on stand up, and short attention span theater. But I was only literally 2 years in. I started in '89. I got on in '91. I wish I had that opportunity now.
At the same time.
Yeah. I wish I had that opportunity now to get on TV because I'm so much better. You know?
I know. Isn't that weird?
Sucks. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
But it was to your, like what you said. I didn't say to your point. What you said,
To your point.
it was a different time though.
Yeah.
Because at that time, TV was starving for content. So they were going around the country, right? Showtime did it, Comedy Central did it when they were called the Comedy Channel. And they would go around the country.
Hey, and 3 shows.
Yeah, right. But what they would do is they would say, okay, Comedy Club A, run a contest, take your best 8 people or 12 people, and then we're going to come in and we're going to tape, and then we'll use it for stand up or short attention span theater. So that's how I got on. But unfortunately, it's been so oversaturated now that someone like me doesn't have a chance because they're looking for the new up and comers.
Well, they want the YouTube stars now,
which is why I'm so happy for what Carol Montgomery has done with women of a certain age.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
And if you're watching and you haven't seen it, go watch. It's on Showtime.
Yep.
It's some of the best female comics.
Yeah. We know because Kerry Louise was on.
On and it's funny because I keep thinking they're going to come up with a men of a certain age, and you go, oh wait, no, those are old white guys. No one likes old white guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they have men of a certain age, but it was a fucking TV show with Ray Romano. They don't. That's the problem. Is they already used the title for something else.
No, but old white guys are not well liked in this country right now.
Not anymore. No.
You want to hear a great Ray Romano? No, absolutely. You want to hear a great Ray Romano story? Oh, except collecting them. Back in 88, probably 88. I had only done like comedy like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Open mics. And a friend of mine from high school called me. I had just done a production of the musical Grease in upstate New York at this Equity Theater. Mm-hmm. And I had just gotten back, and he called me. It was the summer, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm in this contest at Stand Up New York in Manhattan, and it's the funniest guy in Staten Island."
Yeah.
And he said, "They only have 1 week left. They're doing every week. For 10 weeks, they had 3 comics on, and somebody got voted to win. That meant they were going to be in the finals."
Yeah.
Actually, I'm lying. It was 8 weeks.
Okay.
So he won his week. And he said, "I heard you were in a stand-up. You might want to go down there." So I went down. This is summer of 88. I go down. I sign up. I get on for the last week. And it's me, some guy, and some girl. And what they would do is you do 5 minutes each. Mm-hmm. And then they had judges. They had whoever, like whatever booker from the area. They had judges.
Right.
But while the judges were deciding, a real headliner would go up and perform for like a half hour.
Right. It's like we've done.
Stand it, but looking back, I got it now. I get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's
We've done that. We've been that headliner for the Boston Comedy Festival. While they're tabulating the scores, you're the math comic.
You're the math comic.
That's what they call it.
But at the time, I didn't realize, we're bringing the audience, and then they're getting entertained by that person.
Right. Right.
All right. So it's me, some guy, and some woman. And the guy couldn't have been more, even for 1988, he couldn't have been more offensive.
Really? Holy shit.
You're saying that in 88, that was really bad.
That's talent. Yeah, that's talent.
He had a hat with curls and doing Jewish jokes.
Put on the rice patty hat and doing a Chinese impression, right?
The whole 9 yards, guys. So now the girl, she went up with cards in her hand, but she was really clever. I'll never remember her name or his name, but so, and then I went up and the guy won for that week.
Yeah.
The reason now, Carrie Hoffman, who owned Stand Up New York at the time, he announces the winners. He says, this guy won, and everybody goes crazy. And he goes, but we have 2 wild cards. And it turns out that both wild cards are on the show tonight. It was me and this girl. There were no wild cards. It turned out that she and I were the best 2 comics that came in all summer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they needed a reason to put you through.
Right.
Yeah.
And Carrie said to both of us, do you see how there's 60 people in the room that guy brought?
Yeah.
Now, like, in other words, like, he had to win.
Right. Exactly.
So now they have the finals. And I'm in the finals. So's my friend, so's this girl. And I end up calling every theater person I know. And I put like 80 people in the room. And I won the finals. Now, like I said, they always had a regular from the club go up and do like a half hour.
Right.
Well, at the finals, this is 1988. At the finals, the regular that they had go up was Ray Romano.
Oh my God!
Never heard of him, never knew, and he
at that point, right?
Destroyed the room. Just destroyed.
Oh yeah.
So I won. I won the funniest person on Staten Island. So now fast forward like 7 years. I'm in a acting class, and the woman who runs the acting class is directing some show that Ray is in. And I go to the show with Gary Valentine.
Yeah.
I've opened for Gary before.
So Gary
and
the audience.
And Gary knows Ray from Long Island, obviously. Kevin James and all.
Yeah, Kevin James's brother, for the audience that may not know who Gary Valentine is.
Right. So Gary and I go to the show, and after the show, we're backstage with Ray. And Ray goes, so she introduced, Ray knows Gary from they're Long Island comics. So they go, and this is Richie Byrne. And Ray goes, yeah, I know you. And I go, no, man, I never met you before. And I shake his hand, and he goes, no, we work together. This is like 7 years later. I go,
wow.
No, we never did. So we're talking, and he keeps looking at me. He goes, I know I worked with you. And I go, finally, after I go, you know what? I was in a contest, and he goes, you're the funniest guy from Staten Island.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Can you believe I don't know.
He remembered. Well, but you know what? He must have seen your act and known like you were probably the best one that night, you know?
Maybe. I don't know, but you know what? Yeah, you know what? I don't want to say maybe. Yeah, you're fucking right. He remembered.
Of course.
I know this guy's raw, but he's good, like we've all done.
Yeah.
You're sitting there acting like you were the tallest midget when Ray Romano remembered your act.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
And I brought him.
Oh, God. No, listen. I remember you. You were fucking funny. You were the funniest guy in Staten Island. I remember that.
There you go.
But I was blown away that he remembered that.
He won the blue ribbon.
Years later, now I was an established comic, and I ran into him, and he still went, I remember you. You're the funniest guy. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So if I invite Ray to be on the podcast, I should say, hey, I'm friends with the funniest guy on Staten Island.
And he'll probably have no fucking clue.
I don't know. Who the fuck is that? I don't know who you're talking about. Where's Staten Island? Where's Staten Island? I don't even know that. That was a long time ago.
Wow, you've been practicing that.
I have been, huh?
But you got that down.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
But think about that was 1988.
Right. Yeah.
This guy's amazing.
Oh,
and it was 10 years later. Dude, I remember when he was on News Radio and Joe Rogan got the role over him, and he thought his career was over.
Really? So he went for that same role that Joe Rogan got?
He did it in the pilot. And they fired him and brought in Joe Rogan. I remember that was like everyone was talking about it back in 96. And
I remember him being on the Young Comedian special on HBO. I think Janine Garofalo was on that one. He was on that one. Judd Apatow was on that one.
Yep.
And it was like the whole. If you could go back and look at the special he was on, every single comedian they had on that one was like a powerhouse lineup.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he actually stood out. I mean,
Yeah.
you could tell his set was polished.
Yeah.
His timing was perfect. He just nailed it that
And
night. I watched it when it first came on, and I didn't know a lot of these people.
You didn't know who they were going to become,
obviously. Right. And I remember his set.
You know what's interesting about Ray is what a really amazing actor he's become.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? I watched that movie that he was in a couple of years ago. It was a Netflix movie where it was him and a younger guy, and they travel around the country because one of them has cancer.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I heard it's phenomenal.
It was fucking awesome because it wasn't a funny movie. It was a really serious movie, but there were funny moments. But he did a great job in that movie. I can't remember the name of it.
Did you see the show Vinyl on HBO?
No.
He was tremendous in Vinyl.
Wasn't he unbelievable? I mean, the show itself was.
Yeah, but I wish they should have given it a second season.
It needed a second season because there was.
Bobby Cannavale was. I thought.
He was phenomenal, but Ray Romano was great in that.
Tremendous in that. And I actually saw a thing on like Google on my phone, bangs up like different news articles. And one was how Ray Romano has become one of our favorite character actors. Has sneakily become one of our favorite character actors. And they mentioned that movie, and they mentioned Vinyl, and they mentioned
The Irishman?
The Irish one.
The Irishman, he did a great job in The Irishman.
And they talked about top 10 Ray Romano performances.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh my God, this guy's a tremendous actor.
Yeah. You know? If someone didn't know him as a comedian, they just watched those performances, they would just think of him as a great character actor.
And I remember being backstage with him at this play, and he was this is 1994, or he was so insecure about himself as an actor at that time.
Really?
I'll tell you, he was talking to Gary and I about it. He was like, you guys don't have to tell me I was good. Yeah. And we were like, no, dude, you were really good at this. And he's like, no, I know I wasn't. So I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. Do you remember Jerry Seinfeld's documentary there, Comedian?
Yes.
Do you remember when Ray was sitting in the booth with him at the Olive Tree when he said, when you went out there that first time, you didn't want to do like one or two old jokes first just to get the crowd before you did that new material? And Jerry goes, no, I wanted to, build a new act from scratch. And he just kept shaking his head. He goes, wow, that's brave. I don't know that I could have done that and everything. You could see the insecurity of a comedian in someone like Ray Romano right there sitting in that booth.
Absolutely. And I actually saw Seinfeld at Stand Up New York while they were shooting in the middle of that whole thing.
Really?
Oh, really?
I remember when they introduced him, the place went berserk.
Oh, of course.
And then he went into new material and he did a half an hour where he didn't get a lot of laughs.
Right, because he was still working it out.
I love that he wasn't afraid to show in there himself bombing and not doing well.
In my life as a comic, watching that.
I just love that, and that he wasn't afraid to show that. The scene when he's on stage at Gotham and he can't remember the wording, and some woman in the audience, you could tell she was from England. She goes, "Is this your first time?" And and I'm like, this is fucking Seinfeld,
right?
But she has no concept who he is,
no idea,
and everything like that. But he let that all be shown. He wasn't afraid to show. This is what comics go through.
Would you say he's? I mean, you could look back at all the comics in the past, but is he the most true comedian today? As far as he doesn't rest on his laurels at all. He might be.
I definitely give him, all the credit in the world for his work ethic.
Absolutely.
He's got one of the best work ethics out there still to this day.
And he doesn't have to have that.
Right.
He could rest on his laurels, like you said, and just go out and do the tried and true material, right?
We know people from Boston, from New York, who we know are tremendous comics and are always writing and always updating, but yet they've never gotten past that point. They never had it sitcom.
Absolutely.
To me, that makes him stand out more than
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was always a fan of his, but I did never put him as like one of my top 3 stand-ups ever. Right. I didn't mind it. I enjoyed him and everything, but I was like, oh, he's not a creative genius or anything. But then after I saw Comedian, and then I saw him after Seinfeld constantly.
What was the newest
doing new material? I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
Well, what was the documentary he did a couple of years ago where he literally laid out every legal pad sheet that he had on an entire fucking street?
No,
it wasn't Comedian.
Oh no, that
was more recent.
That was the Netflix one.
Yeah,
where he showed himself back in the day when he first was becoming a comic.
Yes, and he literally laid out every legal pad sheet that every joke that he ever wrote, and he laid it out on some like New York City side street, and I was like, holy shit! Like, talk about a work ethic.
Well, you know, we had Rob Bartlett.
Yes, we've talked about that before. Yeah,
Rob's a great friend. He's been a tremendous friend of Mark and I.
Yeah, we would love to get him on here because you know what? What impressed me about him? You know what impressed me? When you guys were doing the Guinness Book of World Records, fundraiser.
Right.
He got on at one point, and he had been on like 3 or 4 times because we all kept popping on and off, and
come on, yeah.
He came on one time and he started telling a story and literally was in tears by the end of the story.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking at him and I'm going, I don't know him very well, but I know he's a comic. He's going to fucking, as soon as everyone starts like crying, he's going to call everyone pussies because he's going to call everyone out. And he totally, by the end of it, he was like, I can't fucking believe you guys cried at that. Like, that was ridiculous. I fucking love that.
You're going, I don't know anymore.
I know, exactly. He was so convincing that you're going back and forth between, is he fucking with us?
Yeah.
Or is he really crying? No, he's fucking with us. No, he's really crying. And I went back and forth like 8 times during that. Yeah. And then finally at the end, he's like, fuck you guys. I can't believe you fell for that.
But he told a story. He told a story last week about being on the road with Seinfeld back in the 80s.
Yep.
And he said that even then, Jerry would sit in his hotel room and write for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Before he would do anything else. And Rob was like, we're at the pool all hanging out and having fun, and Jerry's up in his room writing.
Right. He had that work ethic. Right.
Well, and he again, to refer back to Comedian, to quote him, he said, when I look out my window and I see a guy with his hard hat under his arm going back to work after lunch to a job that he hates, but he's going back because that's his job. That's what he has to do. There's no reason I can't sit down
and have that
and
same
write
work
some
ethic.
Material and have that same work ethic. Who am I to not sit there and do that work?
That guy's getting paid by the hour.
And right. And Seinfeld's getting paid by the hour, but his rate is a lot higher.
But Richie, you know as well as I do, someone like Seinfeld could go out and do the same hour he did 20 years ago and still sell out places and still make all the money.
Right.
But he refuses to do it.
Refuses to do it.
Hey, I just want to put up a couple of comments that have come in on the chat. Gemini Scribe 68. Hi guys, first time I've been able to view the show live. Nice. And then she said, whoever Gemini Scribe is made fun of the fact that we say to your point, because I say to your point to my guests all the time. Scott Higgins put up nice. The Gemini Scribe. And then haha, good Ray Romano impression.
I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I mean, Richie, obviously you've had a lot of wow moments and you've talked about a couple of them, but are there any times where in your career you were like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm here in this place, or I can't believe I am working with this person? Like obviously you didn't know Ray Romano was going to be that big when you first worked with him.
Anytime I look at Mark Riccadonna.
Well, we all feel that way. It was
the same thing for us.
We all feel that way.
Same thing for us.
I almost texted Mark to see if he wanted to come on and join us.
Pop in, yeah.
Yeah, but no, we want this to be about you, buddy. We want this is about you.
I'll tell you what. There's many And we all had. But I'll tell you one that I didn't see coming, and that was back in early January. Back in late December, I had COVID.
Yeah.
And,
Rob.
Yeah, I wasn't really that sick. I was weak. I was tired. And Mark, I'd been doing the podcast with Mark, and we had gotten kind of fucked over by our manager back that summer in the middle of the whole COVID thing. And I would have sat back and went, yeah, I don't know what to do. I'm done.
All right. Yeah, right.
You know, that's not Mark's way at all. That's why I love Mark. It's just not Mark. And he ended up, this guy, Tom Bannis, who you guys
know. Yep. Tom runs this whole channel.
Yeah. And I'm sick with COVID. I come out of it, and they have a meeting with me early January, and they're like, yeah, we're starting our own channel. It's going to be on Twitch. I didn't even know what the hell Twitch was.
Right.
And we're gonna launch it by doing this 4-day event, telethon, and we're gonna raise money for 2 charities, and we're also going for the Guinness Book of World Records. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I went, okay. This is early January. I go, when are we doing that? Because I'm thinking they're like April.
Right.
It goes January 22nd, and
You're like, I just started breathing on my own. Can you give me a fucking week?
Wait a second. You had COVID in December, and they did this end of January, and you were on like
you were on a ton. Yeah.
I know. I know. Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah. Mark's on with the ventilator, like.
I had a lot of years' experience from all the drinking and cigar smoking I've done. So
yeah. There you go. You sucked it up.
But those guys put the whole thing together.
Yeah.
It was Tom and Mark.
Yeah.
I got to tell you guys, I went on it just going, whatever, let's see what happens. And I was on, we did 89 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably did 75 of the 89.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You were on most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason was, it was either people I couldn't believe were coming on. Some of them actually heard about it and wrote us and said, can we come on?
Right.
And others were guys like you guys, where I knew who you were. We'd never known each other. We never worked together. I'm like, I got to meet these guys. I got to meet these guys. And in the middle of the whole thing, all these guys from England came on.
Yeah, exactly. That was so cool.
And I started looking them up, and you're like, oh my God, these guys are legitimate. And they were loving it.
Right.
And that might have been, and I've done some cool things. I was on Radio City Music Hall. I was at Carnegie Hall.
Yep.
I don't know that wasn't the most impressive thing I've done, because it just we had old comics on who knew guys. I haven't seen you since 1983. Oh my God. We had you guys on. We had young guys on. We had new comics coming on, and it was astounding to me. I've never seen anything like it, and I was a part of it. You know, I was more part of it than I deserved to be. You know,
we were honored to be asked when Mark asked, and he was like, "Hey, do you think you could put together like a 2-hour block of comedians?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let me throw it out there." And then next thing you know, like Bill Campbell, who is like a Boston legend, who's been around for like 40 years, who we didn't even, and you had never met Bill, but all of a sudden when Bill came on,
but I knew who he was.
Other guys that were on during that block were like, "Oh my God, Bill Campbell! I haven't seen you since like Evening at the Improv." You know, like it was just so awesome that we all felt, and to the point where we had a block for like 2 hours on Saturday afternoon.
Right.
I literally joined about 5 other times that weekend to the point where Tom Bannis was like, "Okay, well, we're going to bring Ace in. He's back," you know? And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, and Tom was so awesome because he's like, "Hey, I've got like 5 people in the green room. Do you mind popping off for a little while?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. I appreciate that you brought me back on," you know?
Right.
It was just so much. I felt so much camaraderie that weekend with people that I didn't even know. Right. I had worked with Melvin George once.
Right.
And then he came on and we started talking about the gig we did together. It was just amazing. It
Well,
was just an awesome weekend.
as a comedy fan, it was fun to pop on, and not even to pop in and be in the room, but just to watch. Because I watched when Bart was on. When Bobby Collins popped in.
Bobby couldn't have been better to us.
No, and we've had Bobby on the podcast.
I love Bobby.
And Bobby was, he was great. And just to watch all these guys that that you've worked with, but you're fans of too.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
it was so much fun.
I popped on.
So much fun.
At one point, I popped on, and Craig Gass, who I've known, for a couple of years, Gass was on. Melvin George, Jay Okerson, who I've never met, but to be able to but just to be able to interact and say something that made them laugh. I was like, holy shit, I made Jay Okerson laugh.
Yeah.
Like that felt fucking great,
Yeah.
It was just an awesome weekend.
But you asked me, I got to be honest, that might be the best moment in my career, and I've had some great moments, but that was just, and you guys are a part of that. It was just, you never knew,
right?
No.
But Melvin George went in the comments and said, "Hey guys, I'm watching this. Congrats, this is great." Melvin. It wasn't like he was looking to get on the show.
No, he was just saying how great a time he was having watching it.
Melvin, we're going to send you the link because we're like, oh my God, no one called Melvin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And we did have comics who were like, fuck you, man. How come you didn't call me? Melvin didn't do that, man. Melvin was supportive.
Right.
And even when we said, Melvin, come on, at first he's like, nah, man, no, I'm good. I'm just going to watch. And then all of a sudden we couldn't get rid of him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was like me. He signed on like 5 times throughout the weekend. But you know what? It was great because for someone like me from Rhode Island who has like Boston connections, I didn't have a lot of New York and New Jersey connections. Right. But to be able to come on and really like get to know everyone and
it was amazing.
Everyone, it really truly felt like I never felt like an outsider. Everyone made me feel
You're right, Ace. You're right. And I attribute a lot of that to Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Mark, who doesn't love Mark Riccadonna?
Listen, I have never heard anyone say a bad thing about him.
Yeah.
Like everyone is like, oh, that fucking guy is great. He's so down to earth. He's so cool. He almost is like he brings people together.
He does.
I have to say, you're right. He brings people together.
Our goal with our podcast, Drink Shows and Storytelling,
yes,
always been we want to be in the green room. What you see comics, even comics who never met before, go, I know you. I've heard of you. Bam,
Right. And then have a connection.
Right. We did that on and we didn't even know we were doing it, but we did it on a bigger scale.
Yes.
For that telethon.
For 89 hours, you guys did that. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that's why ever since then, Scott and I have been going, all right, we had Riccadonna on. We got to get Richie Byrne on because every time you came on, you had a new story and it was like a great story. And it wasn't like there were some people that were on there that were just like name dropping. You weren't name dropping. You were just telling these fucking stories that everyone was like, "Oh my God, that's awesome!"
And I said that to Ace. No matter who was on talking, you would pop in, and you could. It was like you were just part of that conversation instantly. You could adapt, be part of the conversation.
You were like,
just pick up the baton and run with it like it was nothing. You fit in with no matter who was there at any moment, at any time.
And that was
I texted Ace at one point towards the end of it, and I'm like, has he slept at all?
And that was the funny thing. You'd come back on and you'd be like, you're like, oh God, I just got 15 minutes of sleep. I'm back. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It really was.
The way we came up with the idea for our podcast was that 4 years ago, Mark said to me, he goes, you're one of the best storytellers I ever met.
You absolutely are.
He said, you need to do a storytelling podcast. I go, yeah, you need to be on it with me. And that started.
So he could guide you to the stories, right?
Yeah. So
no. You guys have a good chemistry together, the way that you go back and forth and everything. And that's important. And when I started the podcast, it was me solo with a guest, and it was fine. It worked, but there were the conversation didn't always flow. And then Ace came along and he became the co-host, and the conversations flowed a lot better. Yeah. And him and I always had a good back and forth. So he's a very good storyteller. Right. So it just worked really, really, really well. So.
Right. Well, I hate to use that telethon because it's not the most biggest thing I've ever done, but my God, it was amazing. To show people
wow moment,
a lot of great comics out there,
right?
Never heard of, who are
exactly. Yeah, honestly, it really made me feel like part of a bigger family than just the New England comedy scene. I feel like now I know New York and New Jersey comics. Like I have a relationship with people.
But it also shows what comedians are like, because we've all worked with a lot of different comedians over the years, and I've never walked into a room with a guy that's from the West Coast, or a guy that's from Florida, or a guy from New York, or even Boston, and said, oh, guys from that area are always assholes, or guys from this area. Comedians always seem to have a natural bond. We always get together, and like you said, you're hanging in the green room, stories start going back and forth. The conversations are always good. And, and I think that was an extension of it. And it just kind of proved to everybody that, when comedians get together, we don't mind shooting the shit. We don't mind telling the stories. And we do support each other. I mean, how many times have we talked about, we've done a show somewhere and you see a couple of the comedians in the crowd. When Ace was inducted into the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame, I went there that night to watch. I wasn't one of the roasters, and there was like 6 or 7 other comedians that just showed up to watch the show and support the show.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Absolutely.
And but that's the comedy community that I know, and I think you guys were able to kind of showcase that
on a bigger level,
on a much bigger scale.
Right.
Totally by accident.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't the intention, but that's what it showed.
Well, it wasn't the intention, but it was the intention. But you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like, who's going to care about this? But I couldn't believe how many people were
yes.
So great to see comics with their hair down.
Right. But it also, because we were all there for a common cause. There were 2 charities you were raising money for, and we all were like, absolutely, I'll come on and do that for a charity. I don't give a shit. What time do you want?
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
To guys like Big J, Rich Voss, Craig Gass, those guys.
Adam Ferrara. I was on at one point when Adam Ferrara came on.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Story we did on the Sunday night into Monday.
Yep.
Governors out here in Long Island.
Yep.
Did a live show for us for 2 hours. They had comics. It was something that we didn't even know if it would work.
Yep.
And they streamed live from their stage. And I had a comic, Mary Capone, on the next day to talk about her experience.
Yep.
Because she was on the stage. And she's new and everything. And I said, Mary, why don't you come on? And she was so excited just to come on. And as she came on with the group, Adam came in.
Oh.
And she, to this day, cannot believe that she was on with Adam Ferrara. Like
Adam Ferrara, right?
Discuss anything, because once Adam hit, I had to talk to Adam.
Yeah, right.
Of course.
Right.
And to this day, and Mary's like, I was on the same feed with Adam Ferrara. I don't give a shit about anything. What I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it meant a lot to everyone. Yeah. That's what was so great about it, because like you said, you had all different level of comics, and like I said, when Bill Campbell was like, oh my God, yeah, I'll do that. And then all of a sudden we heard like people from New York going, oh my God, Bill Campbell's on. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So it was an amazing experience.
It really was, dude. And not because it was my thing, but it really wasn't my thing. It was totally Tom and Mark.
Right.
I think that's why I never went to sleep, because I felt like they worked so hard to set it up.
Right. You didn't. Yeah. You didn't. You felt like you were slacking if you took a nap. Right.
Right. Well, let's transition from one of the greatest moments in your career and ask you.
And we know you have plenty of these because on Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, which we should tell people,
Yes.
it's not only a channel on Twitch, but it's also an amazing podcast that's on Twitch that is Richie Byrne and Mark Riccadonna.
Yes.
And they, you know, I never saw someone have more shitty bad gig stories. when we were doing that telethon, there was like a whole segment that Richie did on shitty bad gigs. And I'm like, oh, if anyone has more bad gig stories.
You mean we could do our yearly episode with just Richie Byrne?
Absolutely. We're going to dedicate, you know how we're dedicating a Mike Moto chapter in our book?
Yes.
We're going to dedicate a Richie Byrne chapter in our book as well.
Yes.
Because I have never heard someone tell more shitty bad gig stories than Richie Byrne. Because you know what it is? We tell people, we're like, even if you've been a comic doing comedy for 6 months, you have at least one shitty bad gig story. And it's that gig that it was shitty that night. It wasn't funny at all. But the further away you get from it, when you're telling those war stories in the green room, this is the one you tell.
When you're on a Guinness Book of World Records show, this is the story you tell.
This is the story you tell. Or the 5 stories you tell, because I know Richie had a few of them.
Well, probably the best one.
Yep.
Story-wise, probably in all ways, was.
You can tell more than one, dude. Don't worry
I know,
about
but
it.
the Brooklyn one where I got booked into a bar in Brooklyn. It was a bar.
Yeah, it was a bar show.
They had a back room, and they had a stage, and I was headlining. And in the middle of my set, a birthday party broke out. I mean, they brought out the cake.
They started singing "Happy Birthday."
They brought balloons that hung up. So right in the middle of the show, they sang "Happy Birthday," and I'm like flabbergasted, and
you're in the middle of a joke, and then bringing out balloons and a cake.
Yeah, and so then the woman whose birthday it was starts opening gifts.
Oh my God! Look, it's a crystal set.
Barbara, look what I got!
Look, it's a Tiffany jewelry.
That's a steamer. Wow, that's really great.
A vegetable steamer.
I remember
oh my God! I love carrots and broccoli. This is gonna go so great.
This is gonna help me on my diet next week.
She literally. So I'm they have those balloons that sit with the weights, and the balloon.
On the table,
People are doing this and trying.
And you're trying to tell your jokes.
And I'm trying to do my act, and a guy in the back goes, he said something like, "You're not funny," and I went, "I think I was," until and he said, I wish I could remember what he said, and I don't, but he said something like, "Just fucking do your act, just be funny."
Yeah.
And I came back with something that made everybody laugh. I wish I could remember what it was, because it was
somehow you won them over.
And he went, "Oh, you think that's funny?" And I went, "No, I know that's funny." Everybody laughed, and he goes, "How about this? Is this funny?" And he took a gun out.
Oh my God!
And I went, "Good night."
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you, folks. I'm done.
And I will never forget this. I walked off the stage, and the owner of the bar was standing there and he goes,
he was pissed that you got off?
He goes, "You didn't do your time."
I had a gun pointed at me for the record.
A birthday party broke out, and that guy has a gun. And without missing a beat, he goes, he wasn't going to use it.
Now, where was this again?
Where was it? Was it Staten Island?
Brooklyn. Somewhere in
Brooklyn. All
Okay.
right, Brooklyn. Yeah.
And the guy with the gun even came over, and he's still got the gun in his hand. He's going, "Dude, I was just fucking with you."
I was fucking with you, of course.
And I'm
That's
like,
a typical Brooklyn response. Yeah.
No way.
That's a typical Brooklyn
Oh
response.
my
Dude,
God.
I was only fucking with you. Come on. That's hilarious.
That's probably the worst story. I mean,
well, Scott actually had someone pull a gun out and
They shot
it
it
in the
into
ceiling.
the ceiling.
Oh,
And then Scott, like a smartass, goes, "Call that a gun? I thought that was a BB gun."
really?
Like, that
Well,
could've
no,
gone
no,
very wrong.
I didn't say it when he shot the gun.
Oh, all right.
The guy, it
When
was
you say it
not to retell the whole story again for our audience, but it was a bachelor party for a motorcycle club in their private club. Like you knock on the door, they slide,
they open the little
peephole,
door.
look at you.
What's
when
the password?
when we got inside, they bar the door behind you, so we're not leaving until our show's done. So I'm doing my set, I'm doing 20 minutes, 10 minutes in, I hear the bang. And at first I'm like, okay, they're just trying to startle me. But then I saw plaster fall from the ceiling.
See, they would have startled me.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm thinking in my head, I don't have a comeback for a bullet. You heckle me with a bullet, you win.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try. So I just plowed through because literally, what am I gonna do? I'm surrounded by these guys, and I can't get through that door because there's a guy guarding the door.
Right.
So I finish my set, bring up the next comic. He does his set. They're like, oh, we're gonna get you guys a beer. Let's come over to the bar, get you a beer. Guy comes over and he goes, I totally tried to fuck with you. I shot my gun in the ceiling and everything. And I went, that was a gun? I thought it was a BB gun. And his friends start laughing at him and pointing at him and everything. And I was like, oh my God, thank God that worked because I was shitting my pants. They tipped us $50 though for being good sports, they said, and everything. I said $50, I should get $100 for a bullet.
Right. No shit. But isn't it crazy because that's where the genesis of this whole asking our guest about the funny bad gig story came from. How many times are comics put in such ridiculous fucking situations?
So much,
right?
We actually did an episode, Richie, called It's a Bad Gig When, and we had guys on and we tried to come up with a top 10 list of things as a comic. When you're in these situations or walk in, this is not going to be a good gig. And we couldn't narrow it down to 10, so it's a top 12 list. And, there's just the room where it's a sports bar and they won't turn the TVs off.
During the playoffs.
The bar show where they don't charge anybody and they don't, those are the regulars. We're not going to kick out the regulars that hang out at the bar.
The fundraiser where you do it and before you go up, they want to show the memoriam
slideshow, the guy that died.
Yeah.
Mark and I were on one of those. Mark,
yeah.
But how? I actually did a show once at a sports bar. It was the World Series.
Yep.
And they would shut the TVs, and I'm going, can you leave one TV on? I was like the opposite. I'm like,
you wanted the TV on? No. We're like, no, don't turn on the Bruins playoffs in fucking Rhode Island. Are you kidding?
I was in a sports bar doing a show during the Red Sox first run at a World Series back in 2004, and it was during the.
I got to remind a Yankee fan of this, but go ahead.
Yeah.
And they were actually playing the Yankees during the division series at the end, and they said we're just going to mute the TVs, but we're going to leave them on. Yeah. No one's going to look at us. No one's going to listen to us. We got shushed. The guy that was hosting the show was up there telling his jokes, and someone at the bar turned around and went, "Hey, shh." Like that. They're muted TVs, sir. What are you listening to?
That's awesome.
The crazy shit that they say, this would be a good place for comedy.
Because people think comedy can just go anywhere. They think we're like a background music act, like a guy with an acoustic guitar.
What's funny? If you tell them it's not a good setup, they always have that look of, oh, you're just not good enough to handle it.
Right, exactly.
They blame you.
Yeah, where they're like, no, I got a club here. And you're like, yeah, dude, this is so wrong for comedy.
Exactly.
That's because you suck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not good enough. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Call Jerry Seinfeld and see if he would accept this offer, because he won't. He'll tell you to go fuck yourself.
Or doing a show where they put the what they called the stage, but the pallet in front of the cigarette machine.
Four milk crates and a piece of plywood.
Right, in front of the cigarette machine, and the comic's on there doing his set, and some guy comes over trying to get a pack of cigarettes, and he can't reach the Marlboro pole, so he taps the comic in the middle of his set and says, "Can you pull the Marlboros for me?"
Yeah.
That honestly happened in Providence.
Oh my God.
We got a friend, Tom Dustin, that happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was on just before him, and I'm watching this. It was a contest we were in, and Tom won the contest, by the way. And
because that guy helped him.
And because he just started going off about that after the guy did that, and I'm dying laughing in the back. That see Tom turn around, pulling the thing out, handing the guy his pack of cigarettes. Funniest thing I've ever seen. Remember? Yeah.
In the middle of his set. Imagine that.
Just the crazy shit that you could tell stories of.
I don't know what's worse. When you walk into a place and you realize it's so wrong for comedy.
Yeah.
See, this is a booker who's never been on stage and has no idea. Or when you walk in a place and it's the worst place for comedy, and the guy who booked it's a comic, and he's just looking to make a buck.
Oh yeah, we've got friends that are like that too.
Yeah, you're like, you know better. Know this is
it's like, okay, I just walked in and there's no one here, and the owner is going, "What the fuck happened?" I don't know. You don't have any posters up. You don't have any advertising up for the thing. I don't know what happened, but I brought whoever I could,
Right. That example you gave, Richie, I think when the comic puts on the show that's like that is worse because they should know better.
Yeah, it is.
They should know better.
Who they never even seen the room, but they're booking the room.
Yeah.
You're like, really? And they're probably making $200-300 a week booking a room.
Right.
That's usually the guy that says to me, "Hey, I know you normally make a little more, but
I only got 150 to headline.
Would you close for $150?
Right.
It's a Thursday night, It's I could probably get you a burger too, at $150. Yeah, I'll come help you out. I'll do it. And then you get there and it's a shit show. And,
right.
But those rooms close very quickly because after a while.
But they know those rooms are going to close. They don't care. That's my point.
Right.
All that really does is hurt comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
People go, I went to a comedy show and it sucked.
It sucked.
We talk about that all the time.
Or you go into a restaurant and you're like, "Hey, would you ever be interested in doing comedy?" And they're like, "Oh no, we tried comedy. It didn't work out." Well, why didn't it work out?
Or the opposite. Ace and I have talked about it where people reach out to us because they know we're comics and they go, "Hey, would you be willing to help me put a comedy night together at my place?" And we're like, "Yeah, we could do that for you." And they go, "How much do you think it would cost?" And you give them a price to put together a decent show. And they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, I want to give you a good show." And
I pay a guitar act $300. Well, this isn't a guitar act.
My karaoke guy gets $100.
Right.
It's not karaoke.
Right.
It's like,
point, guys. That's a great point.
Exactly.
I'm going to try to give you a show that makes people want to come back the next time you have a show. And that's my goal is that everybody that leaves goes, "When are you having your next one?"
And you're going to make money on your fucking bar.
You're going to make money. You're not going to make money. You're going to charge it, or you're going to You're going to make money. You want all the money, like everybody.
Exactly. You want the money at the door. You want the money at the bar. You want food. You want this.
And that's a case of, well, I never heard of you, so how good can you be? That you don't understand, man.
Well, guess what? Jerry Seinfeld's never heard of your fucking bar, so he's not going to walk into it.
And those are the same people that say, "Well, who are you going to have on the show?" And I'll go, Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, and Louis C.K.
Yeah. And so who do you
think I'm going to have at your bar?
Yeah, now you have to come up with $75,000 for your bar show.
Coming back from the dead. And going to do it.
Exactly.
That's
so. My last question is: how many people do you think are going to go see Bill Cosby when he goes on tour?
I think a lot.
I think you know what?
Really?
There's been talks that he's thinking about doing something.
He is.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, he will sell tickets.
I think
absolutely.
It's a tough situation in that 20 years ago, I think people would just go, "No, fuck it, he's great," and he was railroaded. But now people worry all the time, like, "Oh, if I'm in the room and someone sees me, my female boss may tell me to go home and never work again." Like you got to think about, this guy raped women.
Yeah,
but he's got a lot of defenders. He's got a lot of people that have openly defended him.
I will tell you, not that I agree with it, but I thought it was a great line with Felicia Rashad when she said, "Thank God a wrong has been righted."
Yeah.
And then they said that she shouldn't be the head of of the arts at Howard University.
Yeah.
Somebody's comeback was, well, how about the millions and millions of dollars Bill Cosby has given to Howard University? Are they giving it back?
Yeah, exactly. Give it back. If you don't want to if you want to trash the guy, which you have every right to do, but give the fucking money back.
But he did donate millions of dollars to them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I think it's the reason she hasn't been fired is they're going to look really bad if they fire. They're in a no-win situation.
Right, exactly.
They're in a no-win situation.
Yeah, that's a tough situation.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's great. I think if he goes on tour, you will see, because look at not that it's the same thing, obviously, what Bill Cosby did compared. But Charlie Sheen, when he went on his tour, he was selling out everywhere, and he's not even a comedian or anything like that. People just wanted to watch the train.
Again,
Louis C.K. has come back too.
But I think to Louis' credit, he embraced what he did. He
Absolutely,
he admitted it, and he embraced it.
But I do think Cosby should take a page out of C.K.'s playbook, which was no one knows I'm coming till the day before I'm there.
Yeah.
Louis C.K. was doing that all around here.
Right. Oh, he did it in Boston too. He was at Giggles one night, no one knew until the day before.
And they were still selling out. They were selling out. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because I'd love to go see him as, how do you put it? I mean, the guy's he's a legend.
Listen, I will admit, him and George Carlin were two of the best storytellers I have ever seen, and they influenced me. My style of storytelling is very much Bill Cosby's, so he had an influence on me.
Right.
On a personal level, what he did was a fucking horrible thing, and it was a shitbag thing to do. I don't condone that. But I also can't ignore the fact that he was a huge influence on my comedy. You know,
right?
It's a tough situation.
I would love to see him live.
Yeah, I'd love to see what he comes out with.
I won't let him buy me a drink afterwards, but I would
no, exactly. Yeah.
Well, if he wants to pay for it, that's fine. But I'm going to order it and watch them serve it to me. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially at 83. What is he? 84? I mean that.
Yeah.
That he even wants to work is amazing.
Right. Exactly.
Well, he's got to recoup some of those lawyer bills.
Those law fees, right?
Yeah,
I know.
That's going to be a little crazy. It'll be interesting to see, and then you got everyone bugging the shit out of Eddie Murphy because he was getting ready to do some stuff, and then COVID hit, and he kind of backed off a little bit. And
I heard that. I heard that he was going to go out.
Yeah, he was. He was looking to do three things. He was looking to do Coming to America 2, then a stand-up tour, and then he was going to do. There's been Beverly Hills Cop 4 has been in pre-production
forever
for like 20 years, but it sounds like there's still people working on it right now.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest Coming to America fan to begin with.
Really? I thought the second one was good. I thought it was good.
The second one. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
The first one I thought was good. I didn't think it was Beverly Hills Cop. I didn't think it was
48 Hours or Trading Places.
I remember 48 Hours. That I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
I remember going, this guy's unbelievable.
Oh, he was amazing. Yeah.
I ain't your friend.
I ain't your friend.
My older brother, who's a year older than me, and my best friend, who they were both a year older than me, they had their prom 1980, and they went to the prom, and then at the next day, I'm like, how was the prom? They're like, forget the prom. They go, they went to the comic strip in New York after the prom.
Yep.
They go, there's some kid, some black kid. He's our age. And he's unbelievable. He's going to be on Saturday Night Live in the fall because this was
June. Pre-Saturday Night Live. Wow.
They were talking about Eddie Murphy. They go, you got to see this guy. He was unbelievable. And they kept saying, he's our age. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Imagine that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what was amazing? This episode.
Dude, we knew that you were going to come on and have tons of stories. And this did not disappoint.
Oh, not in the least. It was great.
So
It was great.
before we go though, we want to talk because we didn't get to talk about this. And I'm not gonna lie, I have to pee really bad, but I still want to know about this. Yeah. But I do want to know.
We're drinking at 8:00 tonight. So
right, exactly. But I do want to know, how did you get that Dr. Oz show? How did you get the warm-up?
Oh, that's right.
Dr.
We never even
Oz?
mentioned
Yeah,
it.
we didn't get to talk about it.
it's funny you say that, because it was 12 years ago this weekend. You guys know this, your comics. It was this July of 2009, and my buddy called me a few months earlier, and he said, "Hey, Paul McCartney is playing. Citi Field is opening, the Mets' new stadium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul McCartney's the first act, and my buddy and I are huge Paul McCartney fans. And he's like, it's on your birthday. He's playing the weekend of your birthday, July 19th. And he said, let's go. And I'm like, I can't go. I got to do a gig. I don't even know what I have, but I'm sure I have a gig because what we do, we never take weekends off, right?
Right.
So I decided, I go, you know what? I don't give a shit. I'm taking the weekend off and I'm going to see Paul McCartney. And I went to see Paul McCartney on that Saturday. And it probably was like let's say it was July 17th, 2000. Yeah. It was a Saturday night. And I went to see Paul McCartney. I took the weekend off from work and I went to see Paul McCartney. That Monday, I'm driving. A friend of mine was driving me. My car was in the shop. A friend of mine was driving me to get my car. And do you guys know Joey Cola?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I get a phone call from Joey Cola. And I answer it. And I go, hello? And Joey goes, your ship has come in. Your ship has come in. Your ship has come in. And I go, what? And he goes, your ship has come in. And I go, what's up? And he goes, there's a show. Dr. Oz. Have you ever heard of Dr. Oz? I go, not really. He goes, well, they need a warm-up guy. They called me. Joey is the king of warm-up, which you guys.
Right. Yeah.
And he was doing Martha Stewart's show at the time. Yep. And they wanted him to come over and do Dr. Oz. He didn't want to leave Martha. So they asked him to recommend somebody. He
recommended you.
And he goes, we're going to go in there. I'm going to show you how to do it. Blah, blah. I backed him up on a few shows, but I really hadn't done much warm-up.
Right.
I was so jaded. I go, I can't talk right now. And he goes, well, when can you talk? I go, give me like 40 minutes. And he goes, who gets told their ship has come in and they can't talk?
For 40 minutes. Right. Oh, my God.
This was never going to happen. This was just another bullshit thing that was never going to come through. And they were probably going to, Oprah probably knew somebody and they get that person or whatever. So I never for a minute believed it. Now, he got me this gig and warm-ups really changed since then. I kind of feel like I was the last one where it was his recommendation and I got the gig. But now most shows have a comic come in for a week, then another comic comes in for a week, then another comic comes in for. It's so fucking crazy the way they do it now. You know what I mean? But back then, Joey said, this is the guy. So Joey was going to do the first show, and then I was going to do the next show. And Oz, on that, it's a great story. We went in the day before to watch rehearsal. And Joey did the first show, and then he threw me to the wolves for the second show. And I did the whole season, 2009, 2010. And Dr. Oz came up to me at the rap party for the first season. He goes, do you remember that day you and your friend were in the audience? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I asked somebody what you guys were doing, and they said one of them is going to be your warm-up guy, and the other one's showing him how to do it. And Oz said, what's a warm-up guy? He didn't even know what a warm-up guy was.
Didn't even know?
Yeah. And because he had mostly been on Oprah's show, and Oprah didn't have
him. Yeah.
So he told me, and I found out later it was true. They shot the first day. Joey did the first show. I did the second show. Oz went into the post meeting and said, we got that guy, right, for warm-up. We got the guy, and they went, no, we got the other guy. And he went, no, that's what I mean. They go, no, we got the other guy, meaning me, because Joey was so good at it, you know? Yeah. And Oz said, who did the second show? And they said, that's Richie. And he said, is that the guy that we have? And they said, yeah. And he goes, that's the guy I want. And they said, why? And he said, because I don't know what I'm doing, and neither does he, but we're going to figure it out together.
Oh, my God. That's a great story.
And he couldn't have been more right. And he and I built a relationship that people talk about it even now. Like, you have to go see Oz live to see what he and I do. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
He knew that I was totally out of my element. He knew it. And he knew that he was out of his element. You know what I mean? And
that's, well, you guys have developed a chemistry.
Yes. And he knew that. I think he would have been, and he loves Joey. He knows Joey really well, but yeah. I think he would have been a little more nervous about Joey because Joey was so good at it. You know what I mean?
Right. Here when he knew what he was doing.
It would have intimidated
him. He felt better with you doing it because you were both on the same level. You were both knew what you were doing.
And he told me that story 10 months later, and then like a year later, one of the producers verified that. And I was like, and that just tells you, the guy's brilliant. And he couldn't have been more right. And he and I grew into this really cool. I mean, we have a great rapport together on stage.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's a great story, man.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
But I owe everything to Joey Cole. I really do.
Really?
Yeah. Then your ship really did come in.
Right.
Even though you weren't prepared to talk about it.
Yes.
Your ship came in.
But Joey's another one of those guys that, like, there's certain guys that I remember from the very beginning of Comedy Central when it was Comedy Channel. Joey Cola was one of those guys with his big fucking, Structure sweater. You remember Structure?
Oh,
it was like the male version of
Structure. All I can remember was Chess King.
Chess King, yeah. But he had these sweaters. But Joey Cola was one of those original fucking comics on Comedy Central.
Absolutely.
And to hear that, that's awesome.
Joey changed how warm-up was done when he went and did Rosie O'Donnell's show. Because
really
warm-up became so much more important. And that was partly Rosie, because Rosie said to him, I want you to do a show within a show. And Joey changed. At that point, comics were doing warm-up, but they were kind of off to the side, but they really didn't get in the way. When Joey did Rosie O'Donnell's show, he was a focal point, and she allowed that, which you have to give Rosie credit for.
For allowing him to be the star of that part of the show.
That part of the show. And from then on, that became that important. The warm-up guy became that important to the point where we're in the union got involved. SAG and AFTRA got involved. And it wasn't just here's $200. Thanks for the day.
Right.
A real legitimate job. And Joey had so much to do with that. But I will tell you this: at that time, R.C. Smith was doing Rachel Ray's show. Joey was doing Martha Stewart, and R.C. and Joey were really close. And R.C. called me and he said, "Listen, when you need real advice, call me." He said, because everyone knows Joey's the king. So if Joey said, do this, people would listen.
Right.
She didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I got more great advice from RC because he had to earn his own bones.
He had to catch up to Joey, right?
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I owe both of those guys. I don't want to leave out.
Two good guys.
And we have talked about it on this podcast before, and we've actually talked probably for the past 3 years about doing an episode where we talk about what was the Pete Holmes show? Falling? Crashing with Pete Holmes, because when he
warm up at the Dr. Oz show.
Right. So when he did the warm-up stuff, it kind of like showed this thing where no, you don't necessarily do your act. You do a little bit of your act, but you do this like games and shit like that to get the audience involved. So is that what you're doing at Oz?
Well,
Or
yeah.
are you just doing your act?
No, I'm not doing my act, but I
Okay.
do have an act that's specific to the show.
To the show, right? Okay.
I actually riff off of a lot of things that just happen on the show too, which Oz loves. I also have I can make fun of Oz.
Yep.
And he never gets mad. He loves
because you have that relationship with them, right? Yeah, you have to build that trust first so that they know that you're not just making fun of them. It's all in love and caring.
What I loved about the Pete Holmes episode was he only played to one section of the room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I'm like, I wish I had it that easy. Because we have 2 other sections and I gotta work them all.
You got to work them too, right? Exactly.
Right. And I'll tell you a funny story. I called Oz that week about something else. A friend of mine was sick, and I called because that's the kind of guy he is. You can call him and go, I need a doctor, and he'll get you somebody. And so he goes, hey, I just shot. He goes, have you heard of Crashing? And I go, yeah. He goes, we just shot an episode this because we were on hiatus.
Yeah.
Because we were on an episode. I was on an episode this week. He was like, he was really proud. He was really excited.
This was Oz?
Yeah.
And I go, oh, really? You were on? I know Crashing. I know who Pete Holmes is. And he goes, yeah. He played my warm-up guy. And it was really funny. I can't wait for you to see it. And I go, I wish you would have called me.
Yeah, I would have been your warm-up guy for that show.
I would have loved to have been in the room while Pete Holmes did your warm-up. I would have loved to have been just in the studio.
Right.
And I know Pete Holmes would have asked me questions. You know that.
Right.
And Oz goes, wow, I didn't think of it. And I go, so let me get this straight. You did a show where somebody played your warm-up guy. And you
didn't think to call him warm-up. And you didn't think to call your actual warm-up guy.
It never dawned on
show.
me.
Right.
He was like, yeah, looking back, that was probably a mistake. You think?
Hey, Doc, I'm going to be on an episode of Chicago Hope next week, and I'm not going to invite you on.
Ask you to be on. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I got invited to be on House, but you're not. That's awesome.
That's awesome. You have that relationship.
But you know what? When he did a live show at Radio City Music Hall in front of the whole place was sold out, and I was the opening act, and to stand backstage and have that curtain open and feel that rush of Radio City Music Hall, is unbelievable. And now I don't get that without Dr. Oz. I don't want to sound like he's a dick. He's not. He's
no,
Yeah,
not at all.
You
didn't come across that way at all.
No, you made him sound like he's an awesome.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
It was so funny. He didn't even think to call me to go, hey, we're doing a show here in your studio. They even had the same stage managers and everything.
Everybody but
God.
you.
Hey, wait a minute. So Gemini Scribe 68 just put up a comment, said maybe Joey and RC should swap surnames.
Thank you.
RC Cola
and
Joey Smith. That's awesome. That's a great one. That's good.
You guys keep us on. We could tell stories about warm up.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I'll Rob Bartlett. I'll call Rob and tell him to come on your show.
Well, listen,
that would be great.
But we would love to have you come on with a couple of other warm-up comics to talk
Whenever
about
you
what
want.
it's like to be warm-up.
That would be a
comics
fun
for
episode.
shows. That would be a fun
episode.
Yeah, I pitched it to Rick Adana and he doesn't want to do it. That fuck.
Well, we're fucking happy to do it, so fuck him.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely.
Listen, if it wasn't for Rick Adana, we wouldn't have met you. We absolutely, we love you guys. We love all of the relationships that we've built through this channel. And for those, for our listeners, if you're listening to this and you're not seeing it, we are on twitchtv.com, twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv.
I always fuck it up.
/
Yeah.
Drinks and storytelling.
Drinks, jokes, and storytelling. And all you have to do is put in drinks, jokes,
the rest
will come up. It's the channel we're on.
You're on our station?
Yeah, we're on your station. We got to talk to Tom because for some reason we're not being promoted on
You
it.
wouldn't know it if you looked at the schedule for
Exactly.
jokes and storytelling.
Can I tell you one more thing really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom doesn't even promote our show, and we're the original. So it's all about John Pavaramos. So fuck
Yeah, evidently John Poveramo's got all the likes. No, we love being part of the channel. We are going to work to try and promote it. We had a great show that led into us, the Hi, I'm Jason show, but we've noticed Jason hasn't been doing the show lately. We noticed. But I love Jason because I love when we're in our meetings. I don't know what his personality is on
He's
stage,
hilarious.
but he fucking cracks me up. Every all right, I gotta make us bigger for a second so the audience can see. Every time Jason talks on one of our meetings, like we'll have a meeting for the channel.
But he's always like,
He's always yes,
Yes,
like
that's
this,
perfect.
or he's like this. He's like the Gilbert Gottfried of our channels because he's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I should do this. And it's like, I fucking love Jason. He's so funny. And he recently told me he built a relationship with some publicist, and we're working on some pretty fucking amazing guests to come on.
Yeah.
Because again, we're behind the funny. We're not just stand-ups. We're not just actors. But we will talk to like comic actors.
Anybody in the business of being funny.
Of comedy. And so Jason has some contacts that we're working on to try and get.
Bro, Jason and Justin. Justin is his partner.
Oh, Justin, yeah, Justin's great too. Exactly.
A musician, just tremendous. What one more story really quick.
Please.
Two. Because you guys are saying what a great storyteller I am. John Pavarano came on the telethon and told like 5 stories of gigs that he and I did together.
Yep.
And I don't remember any of them.
That's awesome.
He was getting so angry.
That you didn't remember any of them?
He's like, you keep telling stories, and then I tell a story, and you go, "Where?" I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't recall that.
But the other thing I wanted to say, coming out of the telethon, and that I'm really proud of, and you guys have to do it. Do you guys know Buddy Fitzpatrick?
I know the
who he
name.
is.
Yeah, I know the name.
Great comic. So I called Buddy. And I said, listen, man, we need someone to host for a couple of hours during this telethon so Mark and I can get off. And, you know, I know
take a nap, take a shower, right.
Yeah, so Buddy said, yeah, I can do it. And I said, all right. I go, call whoever. Just let me know who your guests are, and they're your guests. And give them 15-minute intervals. Blah, blah, blah. So Buddy, being the creative son of a bitch that he is, comes on, and rather than do 15-minute intervals, he brings everybody on together and he plays a game where you throw a word out and
right.
To make a joke about the word.
Right.
So I see what he's doing and I go, oh, I'm staying on. That was one of the times where I was supposed to get
You were supposed to get off it, but you stayed on, right.
And he had great guests too. Julia Scotti was on, and Rob Bartlett happened to be on and stayed on and played. Yeah. And Rob's one of the best improv people in the world. So anyway, I called Buddy and I go, dude, that's a show. And he goes,
that's why he sounds familiar, because he has a show on the channel, and it's literally like they build jokes based on a premise, right?
And he said to me, Richie, it's an old comedy tool. And I go, well, Wheel of Fortune was Hangman, bro. This is a show.
Right.
We developed the show, and every Thursday from 3 to 4, we play And the Word Is. And we've had great guests. And I cannot tell you, if you go watch the show, we'd love to have you guys on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fun. And Buddy does a great job. He's the host. He works so hard on it, and I couldn't be more proud. And that came from the telethon.
From the telethon, really?
Yeah, I've seen the show on the channel, but I didn't know that came from telethon.
And that's why
awesome.
I knew he was familiar, because I know that that's his concept of his show.
Yeah.
Because isn't it? What's the name of the show?
And the word is.
And the word
And
is.
the word is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they build a comedy bit out of a concept or a word.
And we have 3 different segments, and
Mhm.
in one of them, you get the word, and no one knows the word but you and Buddy, and you have to. It's really fun, and it's really about. And my favorite part of the whole show is Buddy just gives you points, and like no one knows who wins. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and like I could say something funny right now that has nothing to do with the game, and Buddy could go, "All right, you just got 5 points for that." You know?
Yeah. You got 20 points. You win the game. Yeah.
And then he'll
Right.
take points away.
Oh, that sounds like fun. We
Yeah, definitely.
we would love to be on.
Definitely.
That'd be
I'm
awesome.
really proud of that show, and I love to tell people I'm the creator, because I called Buddy and went, "You have to do this," you know.
Right.
Yeah, and we've been doing it every Thursday, 3 to 4, right here at Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, and I would love to have both of you on the show. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And listen, we've told our audience multiple times, we did a month where we did a lot on Facebook trying to pull people over to Twitch. I think a lot of people don't understand Twitch.
Yeah,
and
I've done nothing. Yeah,
I just try and explain to people, listen, Twitch is nothing more than an app
right.
where there's a bunch of channels. And one of the channels is Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. And there's probably 8 or 10 shows on there that are all hilarious, all run by comics. Frank Vignola has one. Jason has one. Poe Veromo has one.
Right.
Buddy Fitzpatrick has one. You and Mark have one. We have it. So there's so much content on Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. So for those of those of our listeners that are listening just on like Apple Podcasts or Libsyn, go to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling.
Check
on
it out.
Twitch.
You gotta go on
There's
the channel.
so much great
and look at what
content.
comes up every week.
Yeah.
It actually was Tom Bannis who
started it, right?
Yeah.
we have to give Tom credit for that. I mean, Tom is the producer, and Tom was the one who went, "Why are we going and begging other streaming apps when there's this one right here that
We can start our own thing. Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's why we've been honored to be asked to be on this by you and Mark.
Nice.
And this has been just an awesome.
We've had a blast.
Yeah,
We've had a blast.
absolutely.
We built up the Aceman just to do it.
Yeah, we bought this fucking poster just for that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Thank you, guys. We're gonna have you on our show. I'm gonna tell Mark to.
yes, please do.
Anytime, let us know.
Yeah.
So listen, folks.
And I love Mark.
Richie, is there anything that we can promote for you? Well, obviously not a website because the Chinese own it right now. But
Well, go see Richie Byrne.
Yeah, go see a Richie Byrne.
Very
I
funny.
love how we're talking Japanese
I know,
accents
so
for Chinese.
I don't do Chinese as
Yeah,
well as I do
evidently.
Japanese.
Yeah. No, but is there anything we can promote for you? Any upcoming shows or your Facebook page or whatever?
Don't care. Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling every Monday.
Jokes and storytelling. You got it.
And then the round table every Tuesday, 2 to 3. That's Mark and I. And we take a theme and we have guests on from the theme. So
Okay.
it could be comics, it could be other things. We just did it. We had a friend, Mike Furno, this past Tuesday. He's a producer for Major League Baseball Network, and he was in Colorado and worked on the Home Run Derby. And he came.
Wow.
What a great show that was! It was just
Yeah.
tremendous. So mark that, and then every Thursday is at 3:00. I'm like the resident Paul Lind on, and the word is I'm there.
The word is.
Yeah, and Frank Vignola is starting a sports show on Mondays, and,
Okay.
Nice.
and everybody.
And who does Main?
Man.
Who does the Main Street show? Because that's another one that I've seen a lot of promotion for.
Gary. I just blanked on his last name. How could I blank? Gary. Fridays at 4, the Main Street. Gary,
Yeah, Main Street, and he has a lot of
great guy.
He has a lot of actors. Like I know he had the guy that played like Duty on Grease about a month and a half ago. He has a lot of comic actors on.
Gary, why am I blanking on Gary's last name? This is so embarrassing. But yeah,
I'm trying to look it up.
Main Street with Gary Allen.
Gary Allen.
You know,
Fridays 4 to 5.
And here's the other thing. I can't remember Gary Allen's last name, and I don't ever remember working with John Pavaramo ever.
Hey, don't feel bad. We had Mark Riccadonna on, and I'm describing this bad gig that I was part of, and Mark goes, yeah, I was on that with you. And I'm like, what? He goes, you don't remember? I was on that show with you.
Richie, no word of a lie. He's been telling this fucking story for 4 years about this shitty bad gig. And he's like, I wish I could remember the comic that was working with me.
Remember.
So I knew this
story. To God.
I knew this story. And then all of a sudden he tells the story and Riccadonna goes, yeah, I was on that with you, Scott. I was like, holy shit.
I just remembered it was this comic from New York that was really cool. I said, all I know is I did my set and I got the hell out of there because it was like just.
Was it the nudist colony?
It was at the nudist colony, and I just said, I'm getting the hell out of there. And yeah, that was it. It was pretty funny that night. It was a revelation when he's like, yeah,
that's awesome.
I was on that with you. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, that was me.
That's funny.
Well, listen.
So don't feel bad, Richie. We go through that.
Yeah.
I love this, but I gotta pee.
Yeah,
me too, buddy.
I hear you. Listen, Richie, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure,
if you can, after you pee, I'm going to put you in the green room. After you pee, come back on after the show. I just want to touch base with you on a couple of the things we talked about. So thank you so much, Richie. Folks, look up Richie Byrne online. Look him up on Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. He is one of the creators. He's got a ton of content on there. We're going to let him go pee while we close out the show, and then we'll have him come back in a little bit. So, hey, folks, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this show as much as we did. I was talking to Scott earlier today. I was like, just knowing Richie from what we've seen of him on other shows, we know he's going to be a ton of fucking stories. And I love the fact that he had so many great stories.
You know what? I loved his wow moment.
Yes.
That, you know, we've had so many great wow moments and, you know, justifiably so why they're wow moments. His being that moment was like, I like that.
Yes.
How proud he was of that, because we had already said what an integral part he was of that whole, you know, Guinness
Guinness
show,
World Records show,
how big of a part he was. The fact that he named that as well was pretty cool. And his story of the Dr. Oz show.
I knew that was going to be a great story.
And Dr. Oz picking him because of him being inexperienced and they would learn it together.
Yes.
It's such a great story.
Yeah.
It's such a great story.
I knew he was going to be
a fun guy to talk to.
And listen, Lou, I'd love to have him and Mark on one time.
That would be fun.
Be amazing.
That would be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. You know, he's a great guy, and we knew he would be.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, Victoria, thumbs up. That's what your name is. You know, your handle.
Thumbs up.
It's Victoria with a thumbs up. Please reach out via email, behindthefunnypod@gmail.com, so we can get you your hoodie. And thank you for the 5-star review. Thank you to everybody that gave us a 5-star written review. Anybody that hasn't yet, please do that. Great way to help out the podcast. And another great way, tell a friend about it.
Tell a friend, have them subscribe, because it's amazing. We keep on checking the numbers every month, and it keeps growing little by little, and we really appreciate every little bit of growth that happens. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Other than that, I mean, I don't know what else. We've got some great guests coming up. Next week, we have Jack Lynch, who is a very, very funny Boston comic who's come up on the show multiple times. If you remember, Johnny Peasy brought him up.
Yep.
Kenny Rogerson brought him up. Like, he's been brought up multiple times.
And he founded Comics for a Cure.
Yes.
Which is a group of comics that do a lot of work for people that are in recovery.
Absolutely.
From different addictions.
And he's got a great story to tell about how he did that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just a really, really cool guy. I got to work with him recently and hang out with him and talk to him. And I was like, we definitely got to get this guy on and tell his story. So that'll be a lot of fun talking to Jack. So, and we got some other great guests coming up. So continue to support us here on twitch.tv, Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. Again, subscribe wherever you download your podcasts. No excuses, folks. We're available everywhere you
Everywhere
download
you
your
get-
podcast.
Everywhere you get podcasts, we are there.
And we appreciate it very
And
much.
Other than that, we will see you
Next week.